Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Wednesday, the 7th of May, and we get to engage these awesome tools one more time. Much appreciation for everyone that shares the show, that passes the YouTube links on to others. By the way, if you would, when you listen to a YouTube video, if you would remember to click like, that builds statistics for us. And also join the channel. It doesn't cost anything. We don't have any, you know, pay to join. We're out here doing the best we can with what we have to make this available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And if this is touching you, then we invite you to consider going to whyagain.org, our webpage, and going down to the bottom of the page. There's a donate button. If you're benefiting from this, share it, support us. Our lives have changed quite a bit since we stopped traveling, which goes back 6 years ago now. That was my granddaughter just called in, and I meant to hit the disconnect button, but I missed. So anyway, so if you would like to support our work, that would be awesome. We also have virtually everything we've got is available free. But if you're in a position where you can do it paid, there are paid ways to participate in this work, which helps us to basically keep expanding. Virtually everything that we have and receive, aside from some pretty minimal living expenses, goes into how do we make this available to the next group of people, and the next and the next and the next. So that's what we're here to do. And if you find a way to support that, that would be awesome. And our conversations about, at this point, the codependence to interdependence workshop. By the way, we did finally get the Power Person worksheet completed with some extra steps in it. And we sent out a newsletter. If you're not on a newsletter list, then you missed it. Send Jeannie a note, JEANIE at whyagain.org. And just tell her you'd like to be on the mailing list, and she'll add you. And we'll get a copy of that out. So we sent out the edited, and we ended up doing 13 radio shows on how to do that 19-page worksheet. The reason we hadn't published it previously, although it's been in development for over 2 years, was we just, unless somebody was part of the intensive in which it came together, it just was a lot to understand, a lot to explain. So there is a link in the email itself for the 13 hours of Mind Shifters radio shows. If you want to really break down what runs your mind and runs the mind of virtually every person on the planet, and I literally mean virtually every person on the planet when they're under stress, this is the dynamic behind it. And that's why it's a 19-page worksheet, because it's a monster to free yourself from the generational insanity that has been foisted upon us by our culture and by those who simply had no tools, no way to work through what needs to be worked through. And I'm sitting here beside this lovely young lady who, well, let's see, we worked in the garden till about 8 o'clock in the evening the night before she went in for surgery. At 5 in the morning, we were at the hospital, and at 7:30 they had her on the table. And at about 10, I got a call from the doctor, who was quite excited about the fact that he was able to do an unexpected short surgery. And so Jeannie is rock and roll. 4 hours after surgery, they had told her prior to the surgery, one of the nurses said, when this is done, it's going to really hurt, and it's going to be really hard to get up, but you need to get up and walk. And 4 hours after the surgery, Jeannie's saying, I think I really want to get up and walk. I feel good. And she got up and walked. Take up your bed and walk. That's what she did. And Then 18 hours later, we were out the door of the hospital, and Jeannie was like, "Well, let's go and have some lunch." So we went out for lunch, and then it was a pretty major surgery, and they said, "Well, I really need to get some more steps in, so let's go to Walmart and and get some more grapes for that arbor we put up the other day." So we did that. I think she overdid a little bit. She probably walked half a mile in the Walmart store by the time she went back and forth and up and down. And so she overdid a little bit. So last night was a little tough, but she's standing here with a smile on her face. And you want to hit the call button and share anything, sweetie? Anyway, 100% successful. All is well. Rock and roll. You want to share anything? Okay. Give us just a second. Jeannie's going to come on, share a little bit. Okay, and here's the young lady. Moves up and around. And so how are you doing, Jeannie? No, unfortunately, I can't hear you. I can see you. I've got you in there. Unfortunately, no. Okay, we'll have to let go of that. I guess we're not going to get callers today. Our apology. Anyway, it's sweet that she's doing so well. Accolades to the doc who did it, Dr. Sides, did just an awesome job. And so she's doing well, recouping. So we're looking into the codependence to interdependence workshop itself, and recognizing that what the world calls a love relationship is really a relationship based in matching bags of garbage. And it is a perfect relationship because it will show you, literally, if you've ever been in a relationship and you said the words, the honeymoon is over, you're in the perfect relationship. Now, if you're not safe, get the heck out of Dodge. Leave, depart, if you're not physically safe. But beyond that, now, of course, everybody has to create their own standard, but to realize that we are in a co-creative process and that what comes up in me is mine to heal. And I will tend to attract somebody who has the matching bags of garbage. And the world calls that a love relationship, but it's not a love relationship at all. It's actually based in being disconnected from love, and it's those types of relationships, and that's the reason they turn into the honeymoon is over, is because the underlying resentment that has drawn people together means that if and when I first started 40 some years ago teaching a workshop on healing through relationships, the original name of that workshop was Healing Your Relationships, because I thought there was such a thing as a diseased relationship. And so, of course, we had to heal our relationships. There's no such thing as a diseased relationship. There are diseased people in relationships. And it is the people in the relationship, not the relationship, that is in need of healing. So if we spend our time trying to fulfill our projection of somebody else's needs instead of functioning as a human being, instead of functioning as love, then what really is happening is that this so-called love relationship is really based in resentment and separation from self, the core issue that needs to be healed. When people talk about recovery, recovery is about recovering the truth of who we are. To recognize that all the power person messages we accepted or perhaps made up on our own are energies that we have either absorbed from the power person, we received genetically, and basically those messages that tend to rule are the emotionalized energies, and those messages were given from your power person when they were out of being. They were given to you at those points. So they don't tend to be based in love and end up with a lot of relationship. And that's why in current relationships, if the stress is up and the chips are down, one is happy to dump their bag of garbage on their quote unquote beloved if they don't do our honey-do list. And if both do this, then things are going to get crazy. When we're given a message we're broken, there's something wrong with us, one of the dynamics that happens in relationships oftentimes is we go into relationships with the, I wonder what they want me to be in order to love me. What that really means is I'm going to try to morph myself and live up to whatever their goals are for me. I of course have already realized that I'm not acceptable, that I'm broken, so I'll try to live up to, and of course that's the impossible dream. It's just not possible. And people give out this message, if you loved me you would. Well, I have some really good news for you and I have some really bad news for you. I'll give you the bad news first. Nobody has ever loved you. Nobody is ever going to love you. You have never loved anyone. You are never going to love anyone. And God does not love you. That whole thing is a fraud. Love is a state of being. It is what you are. Your work is to come back to the point where you are a realized being. And if we give the mind this fake definition, and a lot of people object to this refinement, but if you give your mind a fake definition of something, and then you go out trying to achieve it, you're going to fail. If I draw, let's imagine I've got a used car lot out there, and I draw a picture of a Volkswagen, and I tell this person that I'm going to give them free a brand new Cadillac. They don't have the brain cells for either car. So I draw them a picture of Volkswagen. I give them a set of keys and say, here you go. Here are the keys for your brand new Cadillac. Now they can go out into that yard for 1,000 years. And if they're looking for a Volkswagen, they're never going to receive the Cadillac. If somebody told you that love is something they were going to do to you, if somebody kicked the awareness of love as yourself out of you, which happened to virtually every one of us in childhood, if that happened, then what they did was about the age of, 15, 16, 17, 18, they pushed us out the door and said, now go find somebody to love. Go do this fake thing of approving of someone, or find somebody to love you, find somebody who will approve of you. And of course, the minute they stop doing what you approved of them for, love turns to resentment, criticism, hatred, vengeance, all the crap that goes on in relationships. They are not love relationships. You've got to have an accurate definition of the word. If you don't, you will be pursuing a Volkswagen when somebody gave you a Cadillac. And if one, is playing this game, well, I'll become what you want me to be. I'll try to morph into what you want. It's because I'm still working out of that power person dynamic. And it's time for that one to go. Now, another challenge is, so, okay, Michael, so I'm going to function as love. I'm ready to do that. Man, here, give me the list and tell me everything that I have to do to function as love. Guess what? You're going to fail. Because there is no amount of doing that can make you or cause you to function as love. People take all this, they look at somebody like Geshe and go, well, let's see, he did this and he did this and he did this and he did this and he did that and he did that. So now I'm going to do all those things, then I'll be loved too, right? No, that's all a fake. That's all a fraud. If you're trying to live up to a list, if somebody said, here's what how you have to express, and you do all of that, you still have buried the truth of your experience of yourself as this phenomenal presence, this physiological joy, in your cells when it is inhabited by an awake, aware human being called love. Fulfill the list, any machine. I mean, artificial intelligence, which is what's really running most people's lives. Artificial intelligence can do, you know, pretend and say all the things that mean love. In fact, one of the things I was doing when Jeannie was getting ready for the surgery is I did some AI searches on refinements, and it was just awesome information. And I also looked at the medical assessment of how AI is doing. And what they came up with is that AI is more proficient at giving accurate medical information and is more empathetic than doctors by 80%. Now, is AI empathetic? No, but it's got all the right words. And it was pretty amazing when I did some research. I mean, it was interesting how oh gee, that's really good. You know, you're really aware that you're asking these kinds of questions. Wow, this is really cool. You know, you're obviously doing very well. You're pretty smart. You know, I mean, they're just overflowing with syrupy compliments at every detail given. Oh, you're smart enough to ask that question about your medical challenge. Oh, that's pretty, I mean, but is there any empathy in AI? No, none whatsoever. But it's programmed in. So you can program all this into your mind and have your mind do all of those things. But that's got nothing to do with functioning as a human being. It's actually the reverse that's required. It's to be able to have the tools and use the technology to remove the the generational patterns that rip us off for the awareness of ourselves as love. So the idea is, as you do your work, and my offering is that this work is like the going into the exercise room. You do your exercise routine, and as you do, you build muscles, you build strength, you build resilience. As you do this work, you build the strength and awareness from the state of being love. And you don't do something because that's what love would do. You do something because that's what love is doing. Does that difference make sense? I mean, I can program it into the mind and I can spit it out, but it doesn't mean that there is one iota of conscious, active, present love there. As one does their work, you know, it's like trying to do a list is like trying to have the cause without the effect, or trying to have the effect without the cause. You can have the appearance of the effect. Remember, Paul talked about, you know, if I give my body to be burned, if I do this, if I do this, if I give everything, I have everything, and I have not love, I am as a tingling cymbal. Tinkling cymbal. What's he saying? The fake thing, although it looks like the same, it's hollow if there is no being there. You'll notice the latest version of the commitment has, as part of the resolution paragraph, the last paragraph is, if anything that I've committed to here with this commitment sounds hollow. In other words, if I'm still doing this out of my intellect, I apologize, and I'm going to work toward having it be real and genuine. And that's the whole idea of this work. It's not to be the perfect fake and have everything appear to be good. So doing the list without the presence of being means there's nothing genuine about what you're doing. And the work strengthens the state of being, strengthens the spiritual muscle so that we live from being. And now there is the actual live energy of being that produces results, not trying to produce the results without the source that causes those results. So a reflection of love does not mean that being is present and that reflection becomes empty. So one must reestablish, literally in their physiology, each one of us, a proper power supply. So that when we face a situation, oh, there's the kid that's been in trouble. There's the parent that's got a problem. There's the guy down the block there's the all those situations. Do I arrive at that situation as conscious, active, present love, or do I arrive at that situation with the mind programmed and a self programmed that thinks it's alive and there? You know, a good metaphor. You know, let's imagine you have a motorhome and you're on the road traveling and you love toast. So you're going on a trip and you pull the toaster out of your kitchen, you put it in the motorhome and you're going down the road. And let's imagine you've got a new child and the child, I mean, you're literally on the road that child's whole life. And you love toast and you teach your child to love toast. And you plug the toaster into the power supply in the motorhome. Now, the toaster operates on 110 volts, but the motorhome's only 12 volts. You plug it in, and what does the child learn? You talk about toast all the time, and this is a toaster, and this is what a toaster does. And with a 110 volt device operating on 12 volts, well, the bread might get a little warm, and the child might learn to call that toast. But it's not the real thing. We're not looking to outline a set of rules. Here's how you have to do this. Here's how you have to do that. We're doing the reverse. We're outlining a set of tools, not rules. And the tools are, if I'm not functioning as the genuine, active human life that I am, what do I need to move out of the way so that I show up as that? And that means that all of the generational drama and trauma and pain held in physiology is going to have to be faced and removed. So one must have a live connection to source, a live connection to functioning as love, or we become non-human doings and non-human pleasings. There's an interesting, you look at Paul, and Paul is considered to be one of the primo teachers of Yeshua's work. And yet Paul himself says, when the stress is up and the chips are down, in essence, he's saying, and that's why I think he came up with that metaphor, the tinkling cymbal. What he's saying is, I don't know who I am. I don't know how to function as love. Remember, he says, why is it the things I would do, I cannot do? And the things I hate are what I do. He's the primo example of the tinkling cymbal. Love is not present. And when you understand speech on our laws of living class, we actually spend a lot of time over the 16 days talking about what we call regulatory speech. And you remember the ancient scriptures say that the power of life and death is in your words. Speech is really key. It's right there in the brain beside Broca's area, the words, it all ties in together. And when you realize that there is a work to be done, you realize that Paul, and many people are just following Paul. Actually, they're Pauline gospels more than they are about Yeshua. And what many people are doing is following Paulinism. So you listen to him talk about what he says of the fruits of the Spirit. Now, if one is filled with generations of rage, abuse, and fear, how do I get to live that? Somebody stands up there in the pulpit and says, you better do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. But how do I get there if I've got generations and generations of insanity in me? So one of them he talks about is joy, peace, with wars and violence all around, and those who rage continuously, those who live in blame, those who whine, complain. How does one, if that's the environment they grew up in, how does one free themselves of that? Long suffering. What? I'm supposed to take somebody's abuse? No, that's not it. Gentleness, goodness. How do you achieve that if you're in if you're brought up in a mini environment of war and victimhood? Many people will talk about, the terrible things that happen in the world. It's like, why does God allow all of? If there's a God, how could He allow? How could they allow such a thing? Well, it isn't up to God. We were given free will, and free will means we get to go in any direction we choose. And if we have not developed our chooser, which is a spiritual faculty, then we live in the world of decisions. And decisions are of the mind of men. Decisions are of carbon-based memory. If I say, don't think about the color of your car, what does your mind do? It makes a decision. Color of car. If I say, what's the front door? The examples I used last week. If I say, what's the front door of your house look like? A decision is made by your mind. A decision means automatic resonance. A frequency is presented, there's information stored in the mind, and the mind pops up whatever's in it. That's not thinking. That's not choosing. That's just resonance. So there's the question, and it's just one who is steeped in where their whole mental construct is all about blame, then the question is asked, why would God let such things happen? The blame game, rather than why am I participating in a world of hostility or fear when my true nature is that of conscious, active, present love? He talks about in that passage meekness. It's like, oh yeah, go ahead and beat me. I'm worthless anyway. Just right up there with the power person stuff. And you know, how many religions over the years have been, I mean, there are people who have whips and they whip and beat on themselves because they think you're supposed to suffer. Suffering is not a pathway to love. That's insanity. That's a pathway to more insanity. Temperance. Huh? Not if one's loaded with pain and a fifth of scotch relieves it. There's not going to be much temperance in somebody's life. So the whole objective is the active use of the tools. And that is, again, a process that doesn't complete itself overnight. Now, if you look at that whole list, what Paul makes it sound like is, see, these are behaviors. These are things that prove. No, behavior doesn't prove anything. He talks about love strives. No, there is no striving. This is just what love is. That's just what happens. If we're addicted to things, then there's a challenge to stepping into our own physiology as conscious, active, present love. The consumer society, workshop junkies. It's interesting over the years. I've had people that come to a workshop and I end up in a conversation and I mention something. Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, I did. I did one of his workshops 10 years ago. Oh, cool. And then there was, oh yeah, that workshop was awesome. Oh yeah, I've done that one. I went to Europe to do that workshop. It's like, okay, great. So now you've done. Are you doing the work? Are you putting your hand to the plow? You remember Yeshua said, unless you put your hand to the plow. And then once you put your hand to the plow, you realize there's crazy glue on the handle. You can't take your hand off. The work has to be done. So if you're a workshop junkie, then my question to you is, okay, so you did all that, or you attended all of that. Have you done the requisite work that goes along with all those things? Are you doing worksheets? Have you picked up the Power Person worksheet? Have you utilized the responsibility communication? Do you look in the mirror and talk to yourself and do the commitment to yourself? Have you done the commitment? Have you spoken the commitment to your partner? And of course, the non-being mind will say, oh, well, but I'm in so much pain. And of course, that pain is always somebody else's fault. We need to put an end to having a conversation about other people when we're in pain and have a conversation with ourselves, because the way to tell whether or not what you're experiencing is yours or not, what you're feeling, how do you tell what you're feeling is yours or not? The test is, are you feeling it? If you're feeling it, it's yours. But your mind has been taught by generations and generations of very dedicated, religious, really like committed members of the one world universal religion of blame, suffering, and victimhood. The only way to get free of that is inside of your own mind. We, on a moment-to-moment basis, we feel as a result of the energetic patterns that are moving inside of us, not according to what is moving outside of us. Now, we tend to see a correlation because somebody comes along and resonates our rage, and we go, you enrage me, rather than, oh, what you just did was resonated my rage or my pain or my sadness or my grief. The conversation's got to move from the external to the internal, because something that is an internal dynamic is never going to be changed by an external dynamic. Again, we can get the fake thing. We could maybe become big and mean and ugly and tough and have enough weapons to send everybody away that could show us our hurt so they don't come around. So I say, see, I was successful. See, I don't have any hurt. But then watch what you do to yourself. If you don't face what's in you and actually recognize that it's yours, then it becomes absolutely unresolvable. Remember, the parent who blames the child is a user. They use the child as a screen upon which to project their pain. You make me sad, you upset me, you hurt me, they say to the child. So when we do that, the parent, the power person, is a user. They're using the child as a way to pretend that they don't have to face or resolve what's going on inside of them. People do this with partners, with employers, with all sorts of things. And if your power person modeled being a user, then guess what? Under stress, when the stress is up and the chips are down, you're going to become a user. It's just the way it works. If you realize that and you notice that, oh, that's where I'm going, now I can do a pattern interrupt and change the game. If we put our pain into our brain's image of others, then we're using other people to keep from facing our pain directly. It's felt that way, but it's never directly faced. And therefore, it's never dealt with. And, at the same time that we protest their behavior, we insist they stay in resonance with our power person images so that we don't have to look at and own and directly face and deal with our own pain. Again, how do you tell whether or not the pain you're feeling is yours or not? Are you feeling it? And when we project it, again, this cycle, denial, I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. Now that I have told my mind, remember the mind is an evidential device. Now that I've told my mind that they're the problem in my life, I in effect have said, I've given my mind an instruction. And the instruction is, mind, show me, build me perceptual constructs that show me that they're the problem in my life. Now, of course, if I ever step back and think for a minute, I've been through this particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, and it's got nothing to do with them except that they're the trigger. So if I deny, you make me mad, I'm saying to my mind, you're only allowed to show me this mad state that's inside of me by attaching it to my brain's image of them. So now I get an actual construct in my mind, something I see. It's not outside of me. It's actually painted on the inside of my eyeballs. I get this construct where I am unconsciously doing self-abuse, but the construct shows me that it's somebody else abusing me. So we're tricked into thinking that it's theirs, or at least tricked into believing that it's caused by someone else. So denial means I dissociate from the real cause of my pain. When I think or speak as though somebody outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, I have just instructed my mind to hide. I've created an unnatural condition for a human being. I've created an unconscious mind And I've said, mind, you're not allowed to show me the truth. Now I have dissociated from the truth. So the energy that's causing the pain is inside of me, but I have no direct access to it. But as long as I'm holding on to it, I set up a field that draws somebody in to do a behavior that shows me that part of my mind. And when they do the behavior that resonates that part of my mind, then what's resonating in me, I use to build my brain's image of them. That's called projection. So now I see clearly that they're the cause of my pain, but I'm the one who's feeling it. When you apply forgiveness, you collapse that false construct, that lie. And this is one of the reasons why actual forgiveness is not very popular. That means that you actually have to embrace the original pain and suffering. Whatever the original energy is about, you've got to face it directly. You got to get the middleman out of the way, whoever you're projecting it on, out of the way. So when you deal directly with an issue, you won't have to deal with it forever. As long as you're in denial, you get to deal with it forever. Now, the enemy of all of this is wholeness. In order to live with the belief that somebody else is the cause of our pain, now again, remember, if you're in a place of danger, get the hell out of Dodge. And of course, you have the right to, at whatever point you choose, to say enough is enough. But the enemy of this insanity of blaming everyone else is wholeness. It is the thing that is going to show you directly everything that you haven't dealt with. The lie that somebody else has caused this in me is based in blockage of truth, and the false self that's based on that will fight to the death, and I'm talking about literal death, to survive, to keep believing it's someone else's fault. When you apply forgiveness, those energetic patterns that we've dissociated from and built pictures of other people in our minds out of, that collapses. And when it collapses, we get to drop into the footprint behind the projection. We get to drop into direct relationship with what it is that we've been dissociating ourselves from. And it's probably the family pattern that's gone on for 100 generations. So we either play that game of blame, the non-being mind. I know who, I found the guilty one. They really did it to me. They put me in this hell. And it's my job to gather people around me who will support my story so that I can puke on them and I have others who will affirm my puking. But I get the original and they get the carbon copy is the thing to recognize. And it's been going on for 1,000 years and 1,000 generations, thousands of years. Stop searching for people to agree with your victimhood. It's simply time to forgive as to all victimhood. The person who agrees with your fear, your hostility based, and your projections on others is your greatest enemy. They are not your friend. Although while you're in that blame game, they can be a comfort. They cry with you and whine with you and agree with all the blame you've got to serve up. Now, to this mind being right is one of the big things. See, I'm right. See, I can prove it. And look I have 5 friends who all agree with me. And that mind is drugged with its own rage. Rage is a literal anesthetic and a drug. But when one's in that rage, it's like, why do people go for rage? Well, one, rage, hostility is not an emotion. It's literally a chemical produced in the body that anesthetizes against pain. But that rage feels like, when one's given up all of their power, feels like power. Oh, I'm the one with the power. But in fact, through codependence, one gives their power away. And then it feels like relief to bask in the darkness of everyone who will agree with it, with that insane assessment that it's all somebody else's fault. Or if I'm lucky, I'll find someone, and it takes time. I was actually talking to someone yesterday. They had been in one of my workshops, or several of my workshops back 20, 25 years ago, and actually I've taught this work some. And she got the email with the power person links for the description of the power person worksheet and the new worksheet, and she wrote a pretty lengthy letter about her experiencing everything that was described. And she said, Michael, my first workshop with you was back 25 years ago. And she says, I can remember exactly where I was and exactly what was going on in my life. Someone actually in her family had just been murdered. And she said, you said that there'd come a time where I could look at and see all these crazy things being pointed at me, people raging at me and such, and I would be able to just sit back and be centered and at peace. And her words and letters, she said, Michael Ryce, you're full of shit. They were the words that she wrote. But she's in a situation, she's been doing this work now for the last 25 years, and she's gotten herself set up in a situation where, why is this happening to me again? There's another layer of work to do. And she's like, I can laugh. I'm watching this abuse from a family member, and I can smile and laugh at it and realize what's going on. And she said, I can remember when you said that in the workshop, and I thought you were crazy. So if you're blessed enough, you'll find someone who'll give you the gift of not getting lost in the emotion of your story. If you've ever done an intensive, the first evening of an intensive, I make an announcement. And the announcement is, folks, we're here to do some deep inner work. And you know what? Every one of you has got a story. And if we could literally, let's say the 9-day intensive that's coming up at the end of this month on the 23rd, we could start on the first evening of that intensive. And this is the announcement I make on the Friday night. It's like, we could all start telling our stories right now, and the 9-day workshop would be over, and we would get nowhere in terms of doing our work. So I want you to know that I have not the least interest in your story. I know you want to tell it. And over the years, we actually had someone that had worked with Jeannie and worked with me. And each of us were like, okay, we've heard your story, but now you need to drop your story and do some work. And this woman just went into rage at both Jeannie and I and like just quit, just disappeared. It's like, why would you want to pay me $150 an hour to listen to your story? I've heard your story 1,000 times from 1,000 different people. I know the details of it already. Yes, I need to know enough to have awareness of what it is you're dealing with, but to get into the law, like, why would you pay for that? Okay, we got your story now. Here's the dynamic. Here's where the work is. So if you meet someone who will give you the gift of not like getting lost in the emotion of your story, and they may seem to be cold-hearted, but playing along with the drama and trauma game is not a gift to give somebody, but to hold the light and assist one in getting out of one's self-created hell. That's a gift in relationship that is monumental. Someone who will actually be the light to support me in taking and support me in using the tools to take myself out of my self-created hell, my generational hell. And the scriptural statement says, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. The power to heal oneself is not in anyone else's hands. That power is always in mine. If I choose to utilize the tools, if I learn how to stop the pattern of self abuse, if I quit my membership in the one world universal religion of blame, fault, victimhood, and suffering. The non being mind loves, it revels, it relishes in telling its story and being right about it. And the person who's in that will be right all the way into its own self created hell. Remember that past and current realities are plastic. Reality, we live in a world of actuality. Reality is nothing but the generation of constructs by the mind when triggered into a decision. That is, when a certain present energy is triggered into activity, then the mind is going to create a construct, a world that we think we see out there through our eyes. It is the biggest lie that's ever been told to humanity. Well, maybe not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest lies that's ever been told to humanity. You use your eyes to look out there and see what's going on. No, you don't. You've never seen anything in your life with your eyes. Your eye is an antenna. It is literally a one-way valve that brings in information. That information causes brain cells to resonate and produce a picture. Now, you'll notice when you went into the courtroom to listen to the witnesses, the 6 witnesses that saw the accident, that you wondered if any 2 of them were at the same accident. Why? Well, there was an actuality called an accident, but person A had reality A, person B, C, D, E. Each one had a different construct and a different thing that they swore happened. The training of a judge is to be able to understand the rules of evidence and only allow evidence in that attests to the veracity of one person's reality compared to another's. So reality is plastic. And to most people, whatever is firing in brain cells, whatever is resonating at any given moment, that's it. It's absolute, it's done. That's the truth. And the fact is, when there is hostility or fear moving, 100% of what the mind is presenting is a lie. Oh, it may look at the details. Yeah, we went down to ABC Street and I was in this car and they were in that car. Okay, so that's it. But the construct is from the mind. If that doesn't make sense to you, if you want a deeper look at that, there's actually a gentleman who's a neuroscientist named Anil Seth. Go to YouTube and look, put in the search term ANIL, Anil Seth, SETH, TED Talk. He does a beautiful presentation on showing how the mind generates the realities and that each of us lives in our own plastic reality. Think about here's an example. How many have ever been in a major traumatic situation? It was terrible, it was horrible, it was ugly, and now 20 years later you look back at it and you go, wow, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Wow, that gave me such gifts. Well, if you'll practice forgiveness, you won't have to wait 20 years to get the gift. You'll step out of these plastic realities. You'll literally collapse the false realities, and you'll get to step into closer and closer understanding and experience of the actuality of life. So these plastic realities yield their evidence to the goals of the moment. And if the goal is changed, then the situation that yesterday was so abhorrent all of a sudden becomes wonderful. The mind totally reorganizes its pictures and a different reality shows up. If you're in a why is this happening to me again, there's a reason. You've set a goal that has recruited the data of your why is this happening to me again experience. And it doesn't matter, maybe, the why is this happening to me again, the original was 20 years ago and it was about, Hortense. And now you're in relationship with Mary. and you set a goal, and all that was unresolved with Hortense from 20 years ago is reorganized, only instead of looking like Hortense, the same traumatic energy comes up in the mind, only now the mind organizes it to look like Mary. And if you don't have the tool to collapse that process, you're sunk. I mean, people are just stuck in it and they have no idea. Stuck in my story, my pain and my glory. And so literally now, I'm talking absolutely literally. Everything based in hostility or fear that's ever shown up in your mind as a construct is based in a lie. And it can be tough to face that most of my life has been a lie. But people who've been raised in environments of rage and guilt and grief and pain and hatred and vengeance and racism and all that crazy stuff. It's like my whole life has been a lie. What a waste. Well, you could look at it that way and stay with the old hostility and fear interpretation, or you could set Rockman and go, wow, my whole life has been a lie, and now I can do something about it. I can change. I don't have to live the rest of my eternity for that in that state. Whenever life will not yield itself to one's infantile demands, we're caught in the infantile dynamics of carbon-based memory, the power person dynamic. And the mind will continuously adjust its output according to the urging of 1,000 generations of unresolved non-being goals, literally genetically inherited goals. And it's a habit. And you have to give up the habit. The truth is, at any moment when your mind is in hostility or fear, you could have had a Rachma instead. When your mind's projecting some horrific outcome, it's projecting a horrific outcome, about this person or that person. And literally, what energetically, by that moving in you, you are literally sending energetic support for that to be the outcome for that person. When I can collapse that projection, collapse that outcome, then I become a space for something different. And, that's for the person who's stuck in their story, their pain and their glory. And you look at them and go, oh man, their lives are just going to be such a mess. If I'm they're going to be such a mess, I'm an energetic vote supporting them being a mess in their lives. Why? Because I've lived the same mess and I haven't cleaned it up yet. When I clean it up, then I can see, wow, you're heading for a pretty messy life. And I've been there, done that. That's why I can recognize that I have the brain cells for that. And I've given it up. And what I know is that you're a being of love. And I have the compassion to hold the space where rather than projecting what I've got in my mind, I literally can energetically support you and lift you up to something higher, to something better. So at any moment, somebody could say, I could have had a Rachma instead. Because being through Rachma, this filter in the frontal lobes of the brain, creates an urging for sanity and a reality based in love and results that are other than the power person dynamic. And the one's life becomes a life of power and of creative possibilities instead of the why is this happening to me again experience. Give that gift to the people around you who don't have a clue how to do anything better. And even if you never get to say a word to them, that information is received, and you never know when they're going to turn around and act on it. If there is fear or hostility moving in your mind about something in your life or anyone else's, do not trust that reality. Your mind is using corrupt data. Apply forgiveness and rid yourself of that. If you just live out the generational patterns, the drama and trauma, it's easy to do. You just let it happen. It's a habit. It doesn't take any effort to live in the pattern, the generational pattern of drama and trauma. It is the hardest thing to bear, but it's one of the easiest things to do. Is just to let the unconscious run on autopilot. Do whatever carbon-based memory guides you to do. Live in the blame, but in the blame, there's no escape from the pain. That kind of a life, it doesn't take effort. People say, well, it's so hard to do your work. No, it's hard to live in hell. It's hard to live in blame and fear and rage and guilt and trauma. It is difficult. It leads to hopelessness, helplessness, aging, and death. But it's easy. It's difficult to bear, but it's easy to do. Stepping up and facing every hostility and fear-based reality in your mind, whether that reality is projected on you and your life or on someone near and dear to you, it takes effort to become a healer, a self-healer, to wake up from the story, to wake up from the defensive. Instead of going and hiding, that is removing my being, that tender state of being from the world. Remember that song about Vincent van Gogh, the line in it, the melody? Whenever I think about this particular piece of the codependence workshop, remember that line said, "This world was never meant for one as beautiful as you." Well, guess what? This world was meant for one as beautiful as you. And we've screwed it up with generations and generations and generations of unresolved rage and blame and hatred and vengeance and pain. When do we give it up? That's what takes effort. It's easy to live in the drama and trauma and just keep replicating it. It is a challenge to confront it and say the buck stops here. So if one's going to be a healer, then they're going to have to wake up from the story, wake up from the defenses, and instead of hiding out in the past, consciously, purposely bring love to bear, consciously, purposely apply forgiveness. Shift into being and share that healing with the person who's standing in front of you. That one that's guilty. And it's simply time to put an end to the vengeance game. Time for it to be over. And I'm talking for the whole of humanity. And it's not going to happen for the whole of humanity unless enough people, remember Yeshua, the physicist, said a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. He was talking about critical mass in physics. He wasn't talking about bread. When enough of us wake up to who we are and begin to function as conscious, active, present love, together we create a field, and that field of possibility, remember the field of dreams? Out beyond the outfield, there's this place where I'll meet you. If enough people shift into that, then we create literally a mind energy field that every person who's stuck in their story, stuck in their pain and trauma, has a strong enough, literally, a loud enough energetic option to go, oh, you mean that's actually possible? I don't have to stay stuck in my story. I can shift into being and share my healing with you. I can put an end to my vengeance game, my self-deprecation, my suffering. And one of the biggest objections to healing is vengeance. But they deserve my rage and my vengeance. Well, I saw what they did, and I agree with you, man. That was horrible. They really deserve it. But that's not the question you want to ask yourself. The question you want to ask yourself is, do you deserve it? Do you deserve it? And if you don't, then it's time to pick up the tools and do your work. And that's what we're here to support you in. It's 2 o'clock already, so kind of got rocking there. So thank you for joining us. Absolutely delighted that you're here. And if we can be of any support, you know where we're going to be tomorrow. Same time, same station.